Genghis Khan, a name synonymous with ruthlessness. A butcher who slaughtered millions, a monster who changed the face of history forever. That's what most people think of him as, isn't it? Well, there's a lot of truth to these statements, sure, but there's also so much more to his story. So today we're going to tell you about the real Genghis Khan. Welcome to the channel. It was the year 1162 AD, and the place was the unforgiving expanse of the Central Asian steppes. A child was born into a fractured world. His father Yezuge was a minor tribal chief who led one of many Mongol clans roaming the vast Eurasian steppes. It was a life of constant strife, of battling for limited resources and facing the harsh realities of a world without mercy. The child's name was Temujin. And these weren't just the formative years of a boy, it was the birth of a legend destined to shake the world. You see, Temujin's early years were not marked by privilege or power, but by exile and desperation. When Temujin was only 9, his father was poisoned by rivals. And soon after, Temujin's family was cast out by allies. They now had to survive on their own. All around them, the once loyal allies turned away, leaving the family to fend for themselves in the unforgiving terrain of the Mongolian steppe. His mother Holin guided her children to safety, teaching them to live off the land, to hunt small rodents, and to sustain themselves on the scant vegetation the dry land offered. Now, this wasn't just a tale of struggle, it was a crucible that tempered young Temujin's spirit. His ordeal wasn't just about physical endurance, it was a harsh introduction to the realities of their world. It taught him valuable lessons in survival, resourcefulness, and leadership. As Temujin grew older, he was determined to rise above their circumstances, not just for himself, but for his family and his people. The seeds of ambition were sown during these dark days. Then when Temujin was just 16, his father's brother, Eljigde, set up an ambush and killed his half-brother, Temujin's only remaining sibling. Now, this wasn't just a moment of blind rage or revenge, it was a strategic move designed to test Temujin. Temujin passed that test brilliantly. Despite the tragedy, he managed to lead his family to safety. This victory not only showcased his strategic brilliance, but also his emotional fortitude. As he grew older, Temujin's reputation as a fierce warrior and a cunning strategist spread like wildfire across the Mongolian plains. It wasn't just his battles that made him famous. It was also the way he treated his soldiers, not as expendable pawns, but as assets to be nurtured. He attracted followers not through bloodline, but through merit. His growing army became a melting pot of various tribes united not by a monarchical system, but by loyalty to him. By 1206, he had united almost all of the Mongol tribes and was proclaimed Genghis Khan, which literally means ocean-going or righteous. It was more than a title. It was a recognition of his role as a unifier and a leader destined for greatness. Under his banner, the Mongols transitioned from being independent tribes into a well-oiled military machine. He introduced decimal units into the Mongol army, a concept unheard of in those times. Soldiers were ranked in tens, hundreds, and thousands, creating a structure that emphasized discipline and hierarchy. Under his rule, every Mongol boy was trained to become a formidable warrior. He was able to ride for over 160 kilometers in a day, survive on dried meat and mare's milk, and sleep while in the saddle. His goal was to create an army that was not just large, but also disciplined and prepared for any situation. Genghis Khan wasn't just a brilliant military strategist, he was a man of deep thoughts. One story that really shows this is the tale of how he let a beautiful princess go free. It happened during the siege of a city called Wulagati. When the city was about to fall, Genghis Khan saw a beautiful princess standing on the wall. He liked her so much that he wanted to make her his wife. But instead of taking her as a prisoner, he wrote her a poem about their meeting and let her go. He basically told her that he admired her spirit and wanted her to be free. The story doesn't just show his romantic side. It also tells us about his respect for his enemies and their culture. He wasn't just focused on winning, he was also open to understanding those he fought against. Another story that shows how great his mind was happened when he met a wise hermit. Once during a battle, Genghis Khan's men captured a hermit. Usually they would have killed him, but they brought him to the main camp instead. Genghis Khan was curious about what kind of person this hermit was. After talking to him, he realized that this man was super smart and had a lot of knowledge. Instead of killing him, he set him free and gave him a special gift. This hermit later helped the Mongols a lot by telling them how to use new weapons, how to keep their food safe, and how to get help from other countries. Basically, this hermit became like a helper, sharing his knowledge and skills with the Mongols. This story shows us how open-minded Genghis Khan was. He wasn't afraid to learn from anyone, even his enemies. He valued intelligence and wisdom and knew that they were important for his army and his empire. So when he found someone like the hermit, he didn't punish them for their beliefs. He actually used their knowledge to make his army stronger. Genghis Khan's brilliance wasn't just in his cruelty, it was in his clarity. He had a unique gift for taking the chaos of war and turning it into order. He understood the value of different cultures and used that to his advantage. He wasn't just a conqueror, he was an integrator. For instance, he thought all the Shahs were the same. But after hearing stories of one Shah who got rich by selling matches, he started seeing them as individuals. He also started valuing knowledge and education more. But after meeting the Western Shah, he started thinking that maybe he shouldn't punish people just because they had different religions or ideas. Even he wasn't perfect. But this meeting made him think about how diverse his empire was and how he should treat all his subjects fairly. Genghis Khan's approach to conquering wasn't just about brute force, it was also about strategy and psychology. For instance, when he fought against the Taijut clan, he pretended to lose a battle and led his enemies into a trap. Also, during the siege of a city, he pretended to retreat. But in reality, he was hiding his forces nearby. Then he suddenly attacked the enemy, totally catching them off guard. These clever tricks show us that Genghis Khan wasn't just a strong fighter, he was also a brilliant strategist. He valued intelligence and planning and used them to outsmart his opponents. Genghis Khan's empire expanded rapidly, sent out groups to explore and conquer new lands. These explorers traveled as far as the Sea of Japan, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East. But as the empire grew, so did the need for organization. Genghis Khan created a postal system that allowed messages to be sent quickly across long distances. He divided his empire into different parts and appointed officials to collect taxes and maintain order. Even though his empire was huge and diverse, he kept it together by promoting trade and protecting important routes like the Silk Road. His efforts led to a period of peace and prosperity, known as the Pax Mongolica, which lasted for about 80 years. This period saw a lot of cultural and technological exchanges between different parts of the world. In the beginning of the 13th century, Genghis Khan's grandson, Guyuk, continued his family's tradition by conquering even more land. He added parts of modern-day Poland and Hungary to the empire. Sadly, Genghis Khan didn't live to see how big his empire became. He died in 1227 during an invasion of the Western Shah dynasty. Some say he fell off a horse. Others say he was hit by an arrow. He was buried in a secret location in Mongolia, and his grave has never been found. After Genghis Khan's death, his descendants kept expanding the empire. Other descendants went west and influenced the history of Russia and Eastern Europe. The Mongol Empire didn't last forever, broke apart in the mid-13th century, but its impact on world history was huge. It played a big role in connecting different cultures and spreading new ideas. The Mongols also helped to improve trade and communication along important routes like the Silk Road. But it's important to remember that the Mongols were also known for their brutality and violence. They often destroyed cities and killed many people during their conquests. They also forced many people into slavery, and their treatment of non-Mongols varied. Sometimes they were relatively tolerant, but sometimes they were very cruel. Well, that's all for today. Let us know what you think of Genghis Khan. Was he a ruthless conqueror or a brilliant leader?